The camera glides through Dallas, Fort Worth like a polished mirror catching light. The soundtrack is rolling suitcases, gate announcements, and the silky hiss of espresso steam. Catherine Whitmore enters frame with a practiced stride, a couture trench grazing her calves, a monogrammed roller bag tracking obediently behind. She doesn't check signage. She knows the choreography: priority lane, barcode flash, champagne smile. The lens follows her down the jet bridge into a sanctuary of wide leather seats and hushed voices where gratitude is implied and status is assent. Row 2. 2. She parts her tote with a soft thud, turns, and stops. The seat beside hers is occupied by a black man in a fitted navy suit, posture clean, laptop open like a slate of light. He is calm in the way people are calm when they belong, attention divided between a case file and a muted map of the East Coast weather pattern drifting across his in-flight screen. He doesn't look up. Not yet. Catherine's mouth pulls tight as if the air has changed. She sits with controlled precision, smoothing her skirt, placing her phone face down and then face up again. The flight attendant, Maya Benton, mid-30s, eyes kind, expression regulated by 10,000 minor crises, drifts past with pre-flight water. Catherine doesn't speak, not at first. She wants the universe to correct itself quietly. It doesn't. The man keeps typing, fingers light, like he's keeping time only he hears. Catherine adjusts her bag so it grazes his armrest. Nothing. She clears her throat, a well-practiced sound that once summoned assistance from across glassed-in corridors. "Excuse me," she says, crisp as a new bill. "Are you sure you're in the right seat?" The man's eyes lift. They are steady, unhurried, a neutral ocean. "Yes," he says. The syllable lands, neither confrontational nor apologetic, simply true. The pause after it tells her there will be no supplementary explanation. Catherine's smile tightens by a
millimeter. She angles a glance up the aisle and catches Maya's eye with the micro-gesture of someone used to being seen. Maya slides over, posture attuned. "Is everything all right, ma'am?" Catherine exhales, the kind meant to put everyone at ease. "I believe there's been a small mistake," she says. "I think this gentleman is in the wrong seat." Maya's tablet wakes with a flicker, manifests bloom into orderly lists. 2A Whitmore. 2B Ward. She looks from the screen to the man, then back to Catherine. "He's in the correct seat," she says gently. Catherine absorbs that, nods, then nods again, as if considering the new rules of gravity. "Of course," she says, and turns to the window as though the matter is closed. It isn't. The plane breathes in boarding sounds, stowage clicks, a child's laugh somewhere in the back, the soft warning chime of an overhead been forced to do more than it wants. Catherine's right heel taps once, twice. She reaches for the call button, pressing it like she's dimming a lamp. Maya returns. "I'd like to move seats," Catherine says, voice lowered into a tone that stakeholders recognize as confidential. "Is there an issue with the seat?" Catherine's eyes flicker toward the man, then away. "I just don't feel comfortable here." The sentence is deliberately vague, engineered for plausible deniability. Maya consults her tablet. The first-class grid is a neat mosaic of occupied squares. "I'm afraid we're full up front today," she says. "I can check economy." Catherine's jaw registers the word economy, like a bad spice. "No," she begins, then recalibrates. "Perhaps there's another option." Maya's smile is professional, held in place by duty. "I understand, ma'am, but with no open seats, we'll need everyone to remain where they are for departure." She slips away. The man resumes typing. He hasn't looked annoyed. He hasn't looked at anything. The lack of friction unsettles Catherine more than an argument would. People across the aisle are doing that not-looking look, faces aimed at screens, attention angled like solar panels toward heat. She presses the call button again, quicker this time. Maya's return is slower by a fraction, as if she's already balancing a tray of invisible dishes. "Yes, ma'am? I need to speak to someone in charge," Catherine says, each consonant stacked. "I'm the lead on this flight," Maya replies. "Is there something I can clarify?" Catherine lowers her voice, an intimate whisper weaponized. I don't feel safe. The cabin pressure changes. Not literally, the oxygen is the same. But the phrase is a pin dropped in silence. The man's hands pause over the keyboard. Across the aisle, a businessman with a Bluetooth bud reconsiders his posture. 3 rows back, a college kid with a claw clip repositions her phone so the camera faces forward, screen dimmed to a liar's glow. Maya's smile fades to neutrality. Could you explain what you mean? Catherine folds her hands in her lap, like a prayer posed for a portrait. I'm not saying I'm threatened, she says, letting the negative float unmoored. I just don't feel comfortable. There's a brief crackle from the intercom as the cockpit checks a system. The sound is almost comic relief, and nobody laughs. Maya's eyes measure Catherine, then the man, then the empty air where something unspoken keeps trying to materialize. Let me be clear, she says, choosing the words with surgical care. There are no first-class seats available to move anyone. The plane is preparing to taxi. I will ask you to remain in your assigned seat. Catherine's smile is porcelain. Then perhaps he can sit in economy. The sentence is clean, perfectly enunciated, and it lands like a glove turned inside out. The man inhales, exhale audible only to people who live in details. Maya blinks once. Just to clarify, she says, you're asking me to relocate this passenger to economy because you don't want to sit next to him. Catherine meets her gaze, without flinching. Yes. The college kid's phone shifts, a red light the size of a pinprick blooming at the edge. Maya's professionalism locks into place like a landing gear. That will not be happening, she says, voice steady as a runway. He has a first-class ticket. He's in his seat. He is not moving. Murmurs ripple, quick as wind through wheat. Catherine's control fractures by a hairline crack. I am requesting a reasonable accommodation, she insists. Maya's hands fold at her waist. You are requesting discrimination, she replies, simple as a math fact. The silence after that has weight. The Bluetooth man exhales a low "oh." The college kid doesn't breathe. The man in 2B closes his laptop with unhurried precision. He turns to Catherine, and for the first time, his attention is a spotlight. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't sharpen it either. If you would like to file an official complaint, he says, I can take your statement now. Catherine's confusion flashes, then irritation, then something older. Who are you two? He slides a leather case from his interior pocket, flips it open. The badge catches overhead light, gold interrupting the cabin's palette with surgical brightness. Federal Bureau of Investigation rings the seal like a sentence that ends in a period you can feel. The soundscape narrows. The soft click of someone's jaw, the faint ping of a message delivered, the rustle of a magazine abandoned. The man's gaze remains even. Agent Julian Ward, he says, returning the case to his jacket with the tidy gesture of a habit. Would you like to proceed with your allegation? The question is oxygen-rich and gentle as a test. Catherine's throat works. Words are suddenly heavy, slippery things. She stalls. Her imagined script doesn't include this scene. Her mind scans for the angle that saves face, the exit that looks like a door rather. Then a hole. The phone 3 rows back sees everything. No complaint, she manages at last. The plane expands again. There's a smatter of relieved laughter, not unkind, just communal. Humans releasing a held breath. Maya inclines her head to Agent Ward, then to Catherine, then retreats with the posture of someone who will be writing an incident report she never wanted to write. Agent Ward opens the laptop. It's an act of mercy, not to look at her again. The cabin resumes a performance of normal. But the camera doesn't cut. It finds the college kid's phone screen and lingers. The clip is 10 seconds long. A woman requesting a man be sent to economy because she doesn't feel comfortable. A badge. A face that rearranges itself in front of witnesses.
Upolat.
The aircraft door sighs shut. Seatbelt sign dings. The safety demo begins, and Catherine sees none of it. Her phone starts to twitch like a heart that belongs to someone else. She flips it over. Messages pile like hailstones. Is this you? Tell me it's edited. What happened? Oh my God. She opens a social app by muscle memory and forgets to breathe. It's already there. The video box with stark captions, a rectangle of her face caught in mid-plea, the badges flash looped to infinity. 40,000 views. 68. 96. Comments swarm. They don't read like strangers. They read like a verdict she wasn't present for. Imagine being this entitled. She really said economy? The badge reveal took me out. Someone has her name within minutes. That is the internet's particular violence. A puzzle completed out of context. Catherine locks her phone and unlocks it and locks it again. She wants to be angry at the girl with the claw clip, at Maya's refusal, at the man whose calm never cracked. Mostly, she is angry at a reality she cannot narrate into shape. The pilot announces a tailwind and an early arrival. Catherine hears it like a threat. The descent is smooth. The applause of landing gear on runway is restrained, dignified, the way first class applauds victory, by acknowledging it happened and then moving on. The door opens to the expectant breath of Reagan National. Catherine exits fast, eyes forward, shoulders high, as if posture can be armor. At baggage claim, a cluster of microphones blooms like metal flowers. A reporter with a navy blazer and a controlled bob speaks to camera, a producer's voice in her ear. The video of a first-class passenger attempting to have an FBI agent move to economy has hit 1 million views in a matter of hours. Her gaze snags. She recognizes the face from the clip.
Mum.
Catherine pivots, flight or flight detonating. No comment, she says, voice thinner than she wants. The words make air, not shelter. Another reporter slides into her path. The camera lends a black coin. Ms. Whitmore, are you aware your name is trending nationwide? Catherine moves. A cab door opens like a stage trap, and she drops into it, yanking the handle as though it's a parachute cord.
Go, please.
Anywhere. The driver flicks his eyes to the rear view, recognizes the tremor of someone who needs motion. The car defines distance with lines and bridges. Catherine's phone rings. Unknown number, East Coast Exchange. She answers, hope and dread braided. Ms. Whitmore, says a clipped male voice. Edmund Klein, Bellington Trust. He doesn't need to say who he is. Philanthropy has a tone, crisp as ledger paper. You've seen the video? She asks, attempting to reclaim the narrative. We have, he says. The board is unanimous. We expect your resignation by morning. She begins to explain, to contextualize, to pour words into a vessel that has developed a catastrophic crack. He ends the call with a courtesy that feels like a blade wrapped in velvet. Her next call is not a call, it's a cascade. The Arts Council, where she chaired a committee. The boutique firm that paid her to cure it. Relationships nobody will now admit to having. A private school advancement officer who says this is so unfortunate and means irreversible. Her name is a story that people tell each other to feel better about who they are not. The cab puts distance between her and the airport, but none between her and the footage. In a different house across the river, Agent Julian Ward unknots his tie at a kitchen island, sets his badge on the counter, and stirs takeout noodles with a kind of appetite that ordinary days permit. He isn't gloating. He isn't scrolling. He has a morning briefing at 8 o'clock and a case that didn't pause for Madera Theater. The film doesn't stay with him long. It crossfades back to Catherine because the story the world follows tonight is hers. She steps into her townhouse like it's an antique she mustn't chip. The lights are too bright. She turns them down, and in the cool dim, everything is still much too clear. She puts her phone on the table, face down this time for real, and the buzzing makes the wood vibrate, a trapped bee under glass. The TV remote is in her hand without memory of picking it up. She tells herself she just wants data, not absolution. By the second channel, a news anchor is smiling a report into existence. A viral confrontation in first class raises questions about bias, power, and consequences. Her photo is on the screen, a freeze frame unkind to everyone who's ever been paused mid-syllable. She shuts it off. The silence afterward is so complete, she can hear the ambient hum of the freezer and the small click her throat makes when she swallows. She had a script for her life, one built out of polished dinners and perfect emails. Tonight, The camera burned the script on contact.
Her phone lights again.
It is not a message. It is a mirror. She lifts it, and the blue-white wash turns her hands extraterrestrial. She types an apology she doesn't send. She drafts a statement peppered with the words misunderstanding, and context, and personal safety. She reads it out loud and listens to it collapse. The internet will not care. They do not come for nuance. They come for the cut, the reveal, the reversal. There is a knock. She freezes. She is a person, not a headline, she thinks, and the thought feels like a raft made of receipts. Through the peephole, she sees no one. It was the wind or her imagination or the neighbor's door. She exhales, but the breath doesn't travel far. She returns to the table, places the phone carefully on top of the folded trench, as if burying one inside the other will create a kind of gravity, well, to hold all of this. The screen slides to black. Somewhere inside the city, a group of young attorneys watches the clip and argues about policy and precedent. Somewhere else, a freshman criminal justice student texts the link to her mom with the caption, "See, this is why training matters." The camera moves through walls and across blocks and comes to rest again in a quiet living room where Catherine sits too straight in a chair that is suddenly ceremonial. She is not a villain in her own mind, which is the most dangerous thing about most villains. She remembers being 19 with a cheap suitcase and a louder hunger, the internships that required smiling through other people's condescension, the rooms where she learned to speak 3 times before she was heard once. She built an armor out of polish and preference, and then one afternoon, she mistook the armor for authority. The film does not preach. It shows the hand hovering over a service button as if that circular light could absolve, the slow metronome of a tapping foot, the small tilt of a head that says, "I want what I want," without having to say why. It shows a woman attempting to choreograph a narrative with a single phrase, "I don't feel safe," so often used sincerely that when it is used to rearrange another human, it curdles. It shows a man who meets escalation with a badge, not like a cudgel but like a mirror. Outside, sirens somewhere are doing the long-distance wail that makes any city feel like a living thing. The camera finds the badge again, now just metal on marble, light puddled on it like a held note. Back at the airline's operations office, a report is being written. Brief, factual, armed only with verbs and seat numbers. Back on the internet, the clip has multiplied, reframed, captioned by 1,000 voices with 1,000 needs. In the morning, another video will rise to replace it. That is how tides work. Catherine's eyes sting. She is very aware of how many ways tomorrow can go wrong. She will step down from the board, and the statement they will issue will thank her for her service in a sentence that means goodbye. Clients will withdraw in emails that mention optics, as if morality were a lens choice. Friends will call and say they're here for her, and what they will mean is they saw, and they hope the seeing will not splash. The camera lingers on her face long enough to make the audience uncomfortable, then does what good cameras do. It looks away. It pans back through sky toward a plane, now a line of light in a black window, and ends where stories like this should end, not with a gavel or a hashtag, but with a simple, cinematic proposition. People write their character in small decisions when they think no one is watching, and sometimes a stranger in 2B is a mirror. Agent Ward will start his day with coffee. He doesn't finish. A joke from a partner who heard about the flight and says you always did love turbulence, paperwork that needs signatures in 4 places, and a witness who is late because the bus broke down on H Street. He will not check the clip until someone shoves a phone under his nose and says, "Dude, this is 5 million. He will nod, non-committal, and go back to the list because the list existed before the theater and will exist after. When the film cuts to black, the last sound is the soft, automatic click of a seatbelt unfastening, and the last image that won't leave you is not the badge or the phone or even the flush on Catherine's face. It is the look Maya carried in that moment between the accusation and the answer, a look choreographed by years of seeing too much and knowing when calm is a form of courage. The credits, if there were any, would roll without music. There is nothing to sing here. Only a lesson that doesn't need a lesson plan. Entitlement cannot be reclined into grace, and truth, when it arrives in a suit with a quiet voice and a small flash of gold, doesn't raise its volume to be believed.